So one of the things that I got a lot of pushback for at a certain point was um, I was running a software team, and distributed, the usual kind of setup in large companies, 7 time zones, lots of people, different areas, and essentially the knee-jerk reaction was that, if we want to go faster, we need more developers. And I said, actually, I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, the ratio of developers to QA staff was off, in my opinion. And the reason that I knew that was that if you look at um, the primary wait state, more often than not, we would have a lot of waiting going on awaiting QA. So even if you added a larger number of developers to the team, it wouldn't help. It wouldn't help really get beyond releasing. It wouldn't help release things more often, because for things to be released, they needed to be QA'd, and getting more done by developers didn't necessarily mean we got more done. And in my mind, this is kind of tied to this whole idea of kind of Econ 101 marginal utility. So the concept is relatively simple and intuitive. I think originally it was Say who came up with this concept, kind of 19th century guy. But basically, the idea that the way that he described it was that if you're on the beach, it's quite hot, and you're eating ice creams, or you see a place that sells ice creams, you're going to get a lot more utility or value out of buying the first ice cream cone than you will out of buying the sixth one. Because if you're buying the sixth one, you've already eaten five, right? Even though each of those things, in and of themselves, each ice cream cone is going to cost exactly the same amount of money. Uh, so that kind of loops back to the utility that you get out of adding one more person, right? So one more developer. Yes, we already had a number of developers. Adding yet another one was somewhat lower than going from 0 to 1. But it's a little more nuanced, because if you have multiple product types, what you're looking to do is you want to maximize the overall value. And the overall value is based on assuming your budget is fixed, right? So assuming you can't go and in the short term get a lot more money to just buy a lot more of everything, that you look to, if you for each product, you keep buying until you get to the same level of marginal utility across each product. So here we aren't talking about products in the Econ 101 sense, but we're talking about employee skill sets. So dev, QA, release, that kind of thing. So essentially, even though you may be spending a roughly equivalent amount of money for each person, the utility you get from adding each person may vary significantly based on where you are with each particular product line, with each particular product you're working on. So in particular, the situation that I had was that we were under time pressure, and a star developer leaves. So we're already a good amount ahead. He's been with us for a while. There's been a lot of things which were built, but essentially we're still not really ready for customers. There is some extra budget. What do you do with that? Well, within a product development system, it goes back to this marginal utility of adding a developer versus a QA person. But if the primary wait state is QA, I'm actually going to get more utility out of adding a QA person than a developer, even though it was a developer, not only a developer, a really good developer that left. Um, and getting that marginal utility aligned uh, goes beyond just development and QA. So essentially, you can expand this to BAs, to release people, to design, um, and even further, right? So to the entire wait time that a customer has to have from defining what it is that they need to when they actually get it. So we're looking at optimizing this lead time to be able to get back to the customer by minimizing handoffs between each of these functional areas. So in the extreme case, there's the most recent book Eric Ries put out called The Startup Way. He essentially proposes this idea of cross-functional teams where literally everyone to create a product is in one team. And that includes a sales marketing person, all of the engineering, all of the quality assurance, um, and I think finance also. All of them are together, and based on that, they're capable of really streamlining and moving quickly. And he's managed to implement this at places like GE, quite big companies. So it simulates all of the benefits of having a startup with everyone in one room, whereas you don't have blockages in terms of wait time via these handoffs. And yeah, I mean, these handoffs are quite significant. So this is a team that I worked with. Again, software context, but I mean, I think it's generalizable to any other area. If you looked at actual work time on what needed to be done, uh, yeah, I mean, it'd be a little under 3,000 hours worth of work in terms of getting something shipped. Whereas the full amount of time that took for the same team over the same time period with the same products, the same technology, was close to 3 times longer. So you can jump up and down and yell and scream and throw tantrums and whatever else about are the developers working quickly enough? But actually, it's kind of irrelevant if most of what you're waiting for is just things which are partially done and just not ready to be given to customers. So essentially, this reducing of handoffs means you go a lot faster. So even though, yes, it may cost more, right, to have more people in one room and not necessarily having everyone utilized at 100%, if you're more concerned about speed of release than about um, cost efficiencies from a than resource utilization, then yeah, I mean it completely changes the dynamics, and there's a lot of distortions in my mind that happen around how things are costed within bigger companies, particularly cost centers and indirect costs and that kind of stuff, because that significantly disrupts handoffs amongst groups of people, and that's what actually ends up slowing you down.